What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Zombies, Movies, and More. Mike here and Adam as we're talking A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. And man, Adam, this movie, it's 2019, put it off for a while, but what a great drama and just literally a beautiful movie. I just didn't quite know what to expect with it.
Yeah, no, it took me by surprise too. I wanted to see it. Only watched it a few weeks ago. Big Tom Hanks fan. Watched Mr. Rogers growing up, but yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of him, but I was really impressed with this movie coming out of it. I totally agree.
Yeah, so going into it, in case I was totally oblivious, I didn't know if it was a biography or if it was just going to follow, his life in general, but it's kind of like you're viewing a story through kind of like the eyes of Mr. Rogers. It's following a guy who ends up becoming a friend of Mr. Rogers throughout the movie, and it's this guy's like life and a lot of things that are kind of going wrong, family issues, issues with work, and he's a columnist that I guess writes for different pieces, and he's been chosen to write a small expose for heroes, and he's been given Mr. Rogers. And it was kind of a random assignment that was kind of given to him. It sounds like the editor was kind of not punishing him, but kind of trying to make him open his eyes a little bit to, other people that are out there, because it sounds like he was kind of bashing people when he kind of wrote about him. Were you getting that kind of feeling, Adam?
Yeah, I got that vibe. He was very cutthroat in his approach to how he handled people.
Yeah.
And yeah, you kind of got the impression, like whether it was a punishment or not, you got the impression that he's like, Mr. Rogers, my next assignment is Mr. Rogers. I mean, he didn't say it exactly like that, but it may as well have been that. No interest whatsoever. Did not want to do it.
No. And we start following this Lloyd Vogel, and it was really cool at the beginning of the movie. I mean, it starts off like a freaking Mr. Rogers episode, which again, I didn't grow up watching tons of the show, but I know of it, and I know who Mr. Rogers is. But I was kind of like, it's so funny because even sitting there very quietly, just watching this movie, I found myself smiling so much. Like, it was just, I don't know, it just the innocence of it. And we talked about Adam a little bit about how Fred Rogers was just a very selfless man. I mean, whatever baggage he carried, he kept it way back far, way behind him as he tries to help others, mainly children, but it seems like he helped a lot of other people as well, even grown-ups.
A writer by the name of Tan Junod wrote an article called Can You Say Hero about Mr. Rogers? And this was loosely based on him, but not entirely because they changed, I think, enough of the life story that he didn't want it. But Lloyd Vogel, the guy loosely based off Tom,
yes.
His father left his mother while she was on her deathbed, was philandering with another woman, and Lloyd never forgave his father for that. And this conflict kind of happens when his sister's getting married, and of course his wife and his kid are invited to the wedding, and his father is invited too, and he's just like, he's like beside himself that his sister would even bother to invite his father. Very much, do you remember what he did? Why does he have the right to be here? Obviously, he doesn't say these things exactly that way, but that's the movie. I don't want to talk to this guy. I can't believe you invited him.
You're right. That's the total mood he has. And then the actor, which I got to grab his name right here, Matthew Rhys, he did a wonderful job, I thought. All the actors and actresses did a very wonderful job. And you really felt the aggravation he had with his father and the anger that was there. And at times when he's trying to hold it together, in a lot of way, Lloyd is kind of a loose cannon. I mean, especially around his dad, it brings the bad side out of him. And he knows it too, and that's why he doesn't want him around. And anyways, things go down and so forth. And the dad's trying to repair relationships because of something that's going on with him. And but it takes a long while for Lloyd to get there. And as he starts having these meetings with Mr. Rogers, because he's supposed to do the first time he was supposed to get an hour, he gets like 20 minutes and then gets even less than that. And it was very funny seeing him on set because you could hear the producers in the background saying, oh God, he's talking again. He's getting caught up again, because apparently it was really hard to wrangle Fred in and get him on track. Like, he was on his schedule. I mean, when he was having his conversations or if he was enjoying some time, you were not going to break in on that. And they knew it, but they still didn't mind
Yeah.
complaining about it a bit. Tom Hanks, the mannerisms, everything from kind of holding his back and just moving around real slowly. So I was telling Adam that I read earlier that Tom Hanks had to change his total style, obviously, because Tom Hanks is very boisterous, and when he goes into the room, you know it, and he's very talkative and so forth. And although Mr. Rogers is too, it's a totally different speed, and so they had to super slow it down. Even the director at times, a lot during filming, had told them, well, we need to slow it down even further. And a lot of the cast and crew were just kind of looking at her like, are you serious? You want to go slower than this? But once you watch this movie, I think you're going to get it. And yeah, I in a way, I guess it's kind of a slow burn, but it always kept my attention as we were moving along. And I just couldn't help but smile and just really critically watch, even though I wasn't meaning to, just watching Tom Hanks play this role. And God, he just nailed it. He nailed it.
Yeah. I read an article too ahead of time, and I think he said he didn't necessarily try to get Mr. Rogers' voice down, which I think actually helped. He just tried to keep his own voice, but get the cadence and the mannerisms down.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, it's like it felt really natural. I think Hanks, I mean, he's a fantastic actor, won a lot of awards over the years, but I think he really did a good job of recognizing where to go and where to stop. Clearly, with a lot of help from the director, like you were saying. But and one last point before I swing it back to you, I agree. Like, I could see in retrospect, after making a comment, how it would feel slow to the actors. But I would bet most people who watch it, you and me included, clearly would say, I don't know how you'd speed it up without spoiling the impact to some regard.
There is one particular scene that I have to call out, and it was even emotional to me. I was just because I was sitting there quietly by myself because Steph and I are going to watch it together some other time. But he talks about I want you to do something for me, Lloyd. I want to take 60 seconds. And I want you to do this exercise with me. And Lloyd's like, whatever. And it's interesting because like it not only was it them doing it, but like the whole room and everything around him literally stopped for 60 seconds. And he said, I want to take 60 seconds of silence and think about all those that have loved you into being. I think is the way they said it. And basically those who loved each other so much and loved you that they brought you to become. And I tell you, a wave of emotion even hit me because I stopped and I started thinking about, I mean, this guy's message is almost so pure. It's almost too pure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
right.
But as I watched this movie, I was just like, the world, I think today needs this so much. It's like scary. It's startling to me. I mean, if people could really stop and just break it down for a few and realize the core values of life and get away from social. I'll put it to the point that I was thinking about this last night after I watched this. Mr. Rogers felt that TV programming was the gateway for children's learning, and that's why he wanted to get into it. And apparently, the first time his parents brought a TV into their living room, they bought it or whatever. It was like he immediately knew what he wanted to do when he got older.
Really cool.
And it took time because obviously he had to kind of play the game of getting in there and and working behind the scenes, and then he finally got his role. I don't know all the particulars about it, but the point is that he knew what he wanted, and he knew that the TV and the education, that would be the way to bring it to the children and other people as well. But look at it today, and I bet you if he was alive at this moment and someone said, Mr. Rogers, what do you think about social media or whatever? I mean, social media in my eyes has tore the very fabric of what he was probably trying to build.
I think that social media has its uses. It's good for like I see it used to display highlights from sports, video clips, things like that. It's a very poor way to have a conversation with people in general. Mm-hmm. I've used it. I've made mistakes, said things that I would never say to people in real life. I'm not immune to it.
None of us are. None of us are innocent to it.
Yeah, and I think if Tom Hanks' portrayal of Fred Rogers is of any accuracy, I would be inclined that if he was around today, like rather than demonizing it, I think he would just remind people of
the values.
what they really do and the kind of person that they become when they're talking to people on social media.
Yeah.
Because yeah, we're I think that we take things that are actually really small and not that far apart from each other, and because we're behind computer screens and we just see words, we blow them up to be bigger than they really are.
Totally.
um, and so, and there are some things that are really, really big. I'm not trying to diminish it, but there are some things that aren't,
Many.
that just feel bigger.
Yeah,
Yep.
there's, I'd say many.
Yeah, and I know it's weird because I did watch Mr. Rogers growing up, and I watched an episode again when I was 18. And honestly, after it, I was just like, yeah, I can see why I don't watch this as an adult anymore. And one of the things I feel like the two things that I took away from it, like I almost learned these lessons as the character Lloyd was learning it, was like one, like Mr. Rogers comes across as very obtuse and like somewhat obtuse and maybe a little, maybe even a little off center. But as you really get to see his character, you've learned that he's very deep. Like
Yes.
he he notices a lot of different things about a lot of different people of all ages and chooses his perspective. And two, you hear both from how he explains he manages his emotions and how his wife says he actually has a temper. He has emotions, but what he does is when he feels them, he does something right away to prevent them from growing. So like when
Yeah.
he's angry, he hits piano keys hard, or he punches a bag or something. And there's a scene in the movie where he does it, and you're like, oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting because it shows him as this very calm and collected and wise character, but it also reminds you that he's human.
Yeah.
And that there are a lot of things that he has to do on a daily basis to maintain that. And it's really impressive.
It was very impressive. And so hats off to the director, cast, and crew who put this together. It was a very beautiful movie. Currently holding a 7.3 on IMDb, which is more than decent for watching. If I had to give this a score, though, I was thinking about it pretty hard, especially after I saw it. And I don't know, I just felt so great after watching it and just the message and just seeing everything come together. I give it an 8 myself. That's where I'm at. I'm at an 8.
Yeah, I was floating between 8 and 8.5. I think I've decided that I'm actually going to bump it up to an 8.5 because I think I gave Tenet an 8, and I'm like, I liked it better than Tenet.
two
So
two
I think that's kind of where I'm at.
two totally different movies, but yes, I mean, I know it's kind of hard when you're comparing between movies because you're like, oh wait, but this one was so great, but this one's a pure drama at its essence and a very good message. And if you are a crier, it's a good chance that you're gonna pass some tears. I don't know about bawling, but it definitely plays on the heartstrings in some areas, and really if you stay engaged, it really makes you think about a lot of stuff. So if you get a chance and you haven't yet, check out A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, starring the wonderful Tom Hanks. Definitely one of my top 5 actors, my wife's as well. Adam, I know he's high up on your list as well, somewhere in there.
Definitely.
So, but this is the Z-Man Show. Make sure to come out every Wednesday, check out our content. Maybe we'll take a look at Monster Hunter, sci-fi kind of whatever, with Milla Jovovich from the Resident Evil series, amongst many other movies. Like Adam was mentioning, it can be hit or miss when it comes to video game to the movie change. I don't know how this one's gonna go. It's only got a 5.3, but we'll be the test of it. We'll get it out on the screen and see what it's like. So thanks for coming out. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we will catch you guys at the next review.
See you next week.